morning, Lisa Christensen here. I do live demos every Thursday at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I have so much fun. Hi, you're not just listening to a background. Anyways, I'm going to be starting in about 10 minutes, but I want to get people into the group that want to come in, and so I'm just going to get my paints wet, kind of get ready for a fun little demo. We are demoing on the different watercolor brands that I love, that I personally use every day, or on in my art career. So if you have questions, now's a great time to talk. As you can tell, like, this palette is super dirty, but I love it. It's my favorite. Anyways, we're just have a lot of fun just chatting and learning about different pigments and the properties of pigments, and it's gonna be a blast. So stay tuned. I'm just gonna get my everything ready to go, including getting my palette wet a little bit and cleaning up my palette, because it looked like I didn't clean up my palette very well. And I'll be starting in about 10 minutes, maybe less. I just want to get people into the class that want to be in, and I'm learning how to schedule demos so people can enjoy watercolor and learn its wonderful qualities. I think watercolor used to get like a bad rap because it's hard to control, or is it truly an artist medium? I know Van Gogh and well, Edward Hopper definitely used watercolor, but they used it more for studies. Can we use it more in fine arts? Absolutely. Some of my favorite artists only work in watercolor, and I was drawn to watercolor because of the wonderful, wonderful looseness that watercolor brings. And you can't get that with oil, and you cannot get that with acrylic. Acrylic and oil, you kind of really have to work hard to make it loose, and whereas watercolor, like, demands to be loose. So I like watercolor for that reason. I'll be quite honest. This is my summer plein air palette. Kind of. Anyways, there's a lot of pigment. There's a lot of punch in this palette. So, anyways, and I'll explain that. This is my core watercolor, which I love. I have 2 palettes made just for core. This is my Kuretake brand of watercolor, and I love that. But I'm just letting it down so we can kind of play with it. We're just going to have some fun painting some motifs. Good morning, good morning. I see a couple of members on, and I'm loving it. I'm going to be starting right at 9 o'clock. I'm just getting everything ready. So enjoy this time. If you have questions, now's a great time to ask them. And I meant to do a event for this, and I just never got around to it. My life has been kind of busy. We got a new puppy, and she's been taking up a lot of our extra time. So it was on the list of things to do. But I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to continue my 9 a.m. demos. Oh, this one looks like a better one. And you're seeing me clean my palettes. You're seeing all the behind the scenes stuff that I never do until after after my demos. And then it's like, oh no, I need a pie plate cleaned, and I need my palettes cleaned. And it looks like I had a lot of fun with this in this pie pan. I don't know, I don't remember why I put all these different colors on here. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Today is one of those days where I'm like, what was I doing? What was I painting? Usually I can say, oh yeah, that's a triad, but this is kind of all over the place, so I don't know. And I don't like wasting paint, but I also live by the fact that there is no wasted paint as long as it's not in the tube. the tube, if the paint is in the tube, that's when it's wasted. So I have to remind myself that because I'm very frugal with my art supplies sometimes. I might just have to keep some of it on. And I don't mind that. It's this beautiful color, right? Anyways. All right, we are going to get started. I'd love to know where you guys are from. And if you have any questions, if you're new to the channel, well, I do have a YouTube channel, but I'm actually going to change it up a bit. And I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. But if you're new here, I'd love to know like what you love about watercolor, what you're afraid of. Have you been using watercolor for a while and you just want to enjoy the time to chat with others? Like, I want this to be a community, which it is, and it's a really good one, I think. But I'd love to hear more of your opinions and your ideas. So I'd love to know where you're from. I'm from Des Moines, Iowa. Yep, capital of Iowa, central Iowa. North Des Moines actually is where I'm at, which it's a nice little community. We have some really good schools, and our community is pretty safe, and I could be doing this all the time. That stuff is just gonna have to sit for a little bit. I'm not gonna get it all the way clean, but it's better than it was. Keep hoping that maybe the paint will just come off, but it is stuck there, and I don't care because it's just a couple colors. But anyways, oh, specifically the bottom of the ocean, I just make it a different. I have a couple ideas for painting the bottom of the ocean. Usually I make the bottom of the ocean darker in value than the rest of the scene, if that makes sense. Or yeah, I just make the bottom either darker, or if there's a lot of light, then I will add like that brown yellowish color to the bottom just to anchor it. But a lot of times, like if you look in aquariums, or I've never scuba dived. I mean, and the lakes here in Iowa are very dark. Like, we don't swim in our lakes because you can't really see the bottom. Like, that's just the nature of lakes, right? Sometimes lakes are clear, but for my bottoms of like when I do ocean scenes, which I actually love painting the ocean, I make them darker. Let me see if I can't pull out something and I'll show you. Hello, Tracy from Wilmington, North Carolina. I love it. That's so fun. I have a watercolor friend that lives in, I believe, South Carolina, and she's awesome. Here's what I mean by this. You're not gonna be able to see the whole thing, but you'll be able to see most of it. This is a very expressive play that I did of a ocean. Anyways, these are the rocks, and this is the surf, and it's very moody, but you could definitely do the same thing with this at the bottom and just add whatever, and I did this with 3 different colors that made a brown, so it looked like I used cerulean yellow, probably like a warm red, and then ultramarine probably, and I mixed it up until I got a brown, and then I made it very, very thick. So that is something you could do. I don't know. And this is just a fun little painting that I did. It was an exercise, and I think I might cut it down to a 5x7 or something. I haven't decided yet, but there's bits and pieces that I like, and there's a lot of bits and pieces that I'm like, maybe not. I really like this part right here. So oftentimes I will I will make a big painting and just keep like a little bit, and that's quite all right with me. So anyways, oh, the background is okay. So Tracy, I have a YouTube video that might help you, and I'll actually, with some of these with some of these paints that I'm dimming, maybe you'll be able to get a better idea of how to paint the background. Um, I use a lot of water, and um, I use complementary colors. So like if the fish are yellow, then the water would be like a turquoise or a blue. If the fish are like multicolor, then I'll pick one color that'll make the fish pop. Like if the fish is like a like a gray, that's sometimes hard to do, or like an orange. I'll pop the complementary color with it, and then but then like a couple inches after, then I'll add the like a different color into it. Like maybe it's a sea green or a sap green, and so it what you don't want is one flat wash, unless that's the look you're going for, which is totally fine. But I'll show you what I mean in the demo. That might help. Hey, Chris, it's good to see you. Okay, well, it is 9 o'clock, and I am ready to start. Like I said, like if someone was going to watch this in the recording, I wanted them to be able to fast forward for a little bit. Okay, so today I thought we would just I have like all these art supplies out, and it's going to be a blast. We're going to have so much fun, and hopefully you'll learn maybe what watercolors might work for you and what doesn't. I'm going to start with the watercolor that started it all for me. And it like, you guys, we all have to start somewhere, and I started with this watercolor set. I'll show you. I'm moving my stuff around. So, all right, so about 8 years ago to the month, has it been 8 years ago to the month, I went to school for graphic arts and design, and that also included like 2 years of illustration. Like, it was intense. So I knew a lot about oil. I even from high school, I knew how to paint with oil. I knew how to paint with acrylics. I knew how to paint with colored pencils and watercolored pencils. And when I had my first child, I kind of told myself, and this is not the way to think, you guys. I should be on the camera. I'll put myself on camera just so you guys can see me, and I'm so sorry, but maybe that'll work. Hi! So my studio is in the basement. But so what happened was, I had my first child, and I told myself, okay, I went to school for all this, and that was fun, but now as a mom, I need to focus all my attention on my family. And that was the wrong choice for me. I should have been an illustrator. Like, I should have just illustrated while I was home with my kids. Now my kids are all in elementary school or middle school. But what I learned was I needed a medium that I could just pick up anytime and basically kind of like walk away from it anytime. And it needed to be in short little bits. And watercolor was the one that I chose because of the drying properties. It's easy to dry, it's easy to store. I can just take like my little bag of watercolors and go, right? Whereas oil and pastels and acrylics, you couldn't. So, and I really love the looseness. I love the loose style of everything. So I dove deep into watercolor about 7 years ago, and I haven't stopped. So anyways, that's a little bit about me. I'm gonna go ahead and turn my camera back down. So sorry to make you guys dizzy. That's like the worst. But anyways, now you know kind of me. You probably saw me like way close up than you wanted, and I didn't put makeup on because I wasn't planning on being on camera. But such is the life of a stay-at-home mom, I guess. And artist, right? We don't always we care more about our art than I think our appearances. But this is the watercolor palette that really started it all. I didn't want to, we were just fresh out of college, and I needed a nice quality watercolor palette that didn't break the bank, and this fit the bill. This is, and they still sell the same watercolor palette. I don't think they've changed their colors at all, but you can already see how vibrant and beautiful these watercolors are. If you are not a watercolor snob, what I mean is you don't care about necessarily mixing your colors or needing a specific brand. This is an awesome palette to start with, and I'll show you a couple things. So I'm going to do a couple different motifs for you guys just to play around with. Strawberries have been on my mind. They are super fun. I love growing them, but just to show you kind of the different reds, my strawberries, I have like 4 or 5 different strawberries in my patch, so I get like big ones and small ones, and ones that look more like they're pink, and ones that look more almost orangey. So I just love painting strawberries. It does come with a palette. This is the palette. I usually don't use this palette. If I do, I put it on something that's a little bit like white, but I pretty much know what these colors are. So, and they are very vibrant, so very, very potent. So and I've used a lot of the watercolor from these palettes. Like I've had them for 8 years. So yeah, and the colors are by number, so it won't say, oh, this is alizarin crimson, this is, you know, whatever. They don't do that. So anyways, so that's like an original. This is a neutral red. I wouldn't call it warm, and I wouldn't call it cool. This is going to be a cooler red. Ooh, that's almost like a purple berry, huh? That's a fun one. And I always forget sometimes the different colors when I actually, because I will mix them, or I've just used these palettes a lot. But anyways, this one should be more cad red, but it might be more warmer, I don't know. But I always like strawberries because they're like a triangle, and I'm using like an oval or a mop brush, so it's like a flat and a round brush together, and it's just fantastic. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to add a couple more of that. I'm going to warm this up a little bit with this red, just to give it a little bit more variegated colors, and I like that. Probably. And maybe for this one I'll just do the opposite. I'll do the more warm. I don't know, you guys garden? Are you excited for your produce to come up? Are you excited for flowers? All right, and then I'll show you with some greens. But these are very, very buttery. They're creamy. Again, this is what started all of it. And then, so they have like 3 or 4 different, you know, strawberry leaves. And I'm just playing, you guys. It's fun. Maybe your leaves are going to be thicker and more darker green. But I love doing strawberry motifs. I don't know why. I think because I really love strawberries, and I'm ready. And I'll fill up this whole page with strawberry motifs while we're playing with different colors, and you'll be able to see, oh, I like this, or oh, I don't really like this brand, because I got 5 more to go. But this is a darker green. This was, if you have this one, this is number 71, and it's one of my favorites. I would call it like a hooker's green almost, if you are, and you can tell because like I don't have as much pigment on this one. I really love greens, and I like that I don't really have to mix with this palette like I do with other palettes. But anyways, and then I'm gonna go with this one. This one is more like a turquoise green, like a phthalo turquoise green. And we'll just, and it's probably not the right natural green, but it works well with this cool red. So I got a new, not puppy, we rescued a dog, and she is a really good dog, but she is in the background. So if you hear barking, that might be why. Other things to think of that I like about this palette is the pans are actually like movable. So like when I really wanted to learn my color theory, watercolor color theory is different than oil and acrylic, because this watercolor in general is transparent. So you really got to know, like, if I put, you know, red on top of green, what's it gonna do, sort of thing. Whereas so anyways, when I wanted to learn color theory, I would take out like a yellow, a red, and a blue, and I would just play with those colors. And then I wasn't distracted like, oh, but I want to use like this blue. No, I'm telling myself that I only am going to use these three, triads or whatever. And that really helped me realize like, oh, I can get a lot of other values, or not values, but color hues from just three colors. So I really like this palette. I still use this palette. I use it a lot in my cards. I use it a lot. Now it's Japanese, and so if I'm doing like Chinese brush painting or Japanese brush painting, I will get this out because it has such a big pan for a big brush, like a 1-inch brush can fit on it. So I really like this palette. Then this was the Kuretake, um, and it's called the Gansai Tombi watercolor. So very but it's fantastic. I love it. This is wonderful. The one thing I will say is it doesn't travel very well. So I always have to put like a rubber band like here and here, so then the palettes don't move and get separated, because that's a pain in the butt to deal with. But it's a great palette nonetheless. Okay, now I wanted to show you my bag of tricks. This is my bag that has all of the colors that I use on a regular basis in my paintings. So when I am just using to paint, these are my colors. Now what I mean is to paint, so I showed you Kuretake, and it was in pans, right? It came in a pan. I didn't have to mess with buying tubes. So they took the guesswork out of putting watercolor in a palette and letting it dry. They did that, so I didn't have to. However, a lot of watercolor artists will paint directly with tube watercolor because you can get a really darker look, like you can really work with your values, which is a great thing in watercolor. Value meaning light to dark. If I wanted to paint these strawberries really dark, I could without a lot of effort, because I'm using tube paint. I can make the watercolor thicker. If you're just doing more washes, you can get by with just a pan. But you'll see, I'll have Daniel Smith and Blick art, and I'll even have some of my core brand of watercolor all in here, because I have learned that why pay more if you can't notice a difference. So for example, I'll take these two yellows. This is a warm yellow, this is a cool yellow, so they're not at all the same. But to compare apples, kind of apples, this is Core is a wonderful brand. But if I can get by with using Gamboge, and I don't have to spend, like this is a $20 tube and this is a $6 tube, but the light fastness is still the same. Light fastness, excellent. If you're worried about your light fastness, meaning you want the pigment to never fade, you want it to be a 1. Like some colors like Primrose, which I will spend the extra money on Daniel Smith for the light fastness. I think this might be Primrose, yep. And the light fastness is, it'll tell you, but I spent a little bit more money on Daniel Smith for Primrose than Blick, because I wanted it to last as long as possible. And so I really look for, those are the things that I look for. Of course, it doesn't always happen. Primrose, you're never going to get like an excellent rating on this Primrose color, because it's just the way the pigment is. There's like nothing that has been a good substitute, but artists love this bright pink color for lots of things. So you take some and lose some. Let's see, so I'll just get some of these out. There's about probably 25 different colors, and I'll explain some of them. So like purple is always in my palette. This is a cooler yellow. I have probably 5 or 6 different yellows, because I love yellows. I love the different yellows that I can get from different colors. So another thing that I look for is this like Daniel Smith, I almost only go with Daniel Smith for the light fastness and for like their actual color. So this is Aussie Red Gold. You can't get Aussie Red Gold anywhere else except for Daniel Smith, and I absolutely love this color. I'll show you. It'll be like a yellow, an unripened strawberry, but and I use this a lot in my landscapes, not for strawberries, but you'll see what I mean. Cascade Green is another favorite of mine from Daniel Smith, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Green Gold. Blick just started getting a green gold that I really, really like, but it's like I almost call it a yellow because there's azo yellow and a little bit of, it'll tell you on here, maybe sometimes. It looks like a phthalo green, so like a viridian. So viridian and like Aussie, what nickel azo yellow. But if I don't want to mix those two together, then green gold is a great choice. And then the other, I know you guys have some favorite. Lunar Blue is gorgeous. And then I have, Carbon Violet is really pretty. It has a mixture of a couple of different colors and it separates and it's really gorgeous. Along with, actually, sorry, when I was Carbon Violet, I meant Imperial Purple. And this is just Dioxazine Violet. But Imperial Purple it has a beautiful quality to it. I'll show ya. And then I have, my Moon Glow, which I'm not finding. I might have it in my other bag. But this is my studio bag. This is my convenient colors. So I also have my colors that I like to use sometimes. And this is, let me find it, because I really want to show you a couple other colors. Okay. Sorry. This is my convenient colors palette. So I organize my watercolors, and this is my system. My studio palette bag is here. My convenient colors, so like my colors that usually have other colors with it. Lavender has white titanium into it, and then it also has ultramarine violet, and it looks like ultramarine. So it's very blue with titanium in it. It's not a, I do this because I will paint for shows, and my show paintings have to be transparent, or I like to try and be as transparent watercolor as possible, and usually they don't allow titanium white to be part of in that painting, like at all. So I had to separate them and really use my color theory. Quinacridone Sienna is another one, like Aussie Red Gold. It has a couple of different colors. My Moon Undersea Green is definitely a tube that I would recommend getting. And then here is my Rose of Ultramarine, which I love. Anyways, let's play around with some of those. And then if I can find my Moon Glow is right here. And I know we've had go search Moon Glow on our watercolor Facebook group, and you'll see some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful ways that people have used those pigments. And I probably won't go through all of them. I could, if you really want a demo on all the fun Daniel Smith colors, let me know. I'll do a demo. But for now, I'm just gonna do a couple of my favorites. So this is Rose of Ultramarine, and I don't know. Do you guys ever just put watercolor on paper and let it do its thing? Because I do, and it's so much fun. So Rose of Ultramarine is very pink, but then it separates with some blue. It's so pretty. And it will dry, it'll separate. So you won't see it really until it dries. But that's the color. And it is just beautiful. I just love that color. Okay, we'll go with Moon Glow because I spoke so highly of Moon Glow. And I'll just put a dot right there. That's way more than I needed. I could fill the whole paper if I wanted to. But, and I love using tube watercolor. Okay, I'm looking at comments. So the brand of watercolors that I've used is the Kuretake watercolors by Kuretake is the brand, and it's Gansai Tombi watercolor paper. I'm probably mispronouncing it, but that's how it sounds in English. And then I just got done talking about, I'm using Daniel Smith right now. I will often have Blick arts watercolors in my palette, because if you don't see the difference, why pay the difference? And right now I'm using Moon Glow. Oh, Patricia, I'm probably mispronouncing your last name. Um, Manaz. Anyways, I'm glad you like that palette. It is one of my favorites. It's what started my love for watercolor so much. So this is Moon Glow. You can already tell that it's separating. You can see some of this pink color and the ultramarine. I just love Moon Glow. It's so gorgeous. It makes my heart so happy. Okay, I can paint with Moon Glow all day long, but that's Moon Glow. If you want to start using tube pigment and you want to do a whole painting on one tube pigment, I recommend Moon Glow, and it's just beautiful. I use this a lot for my landscapes. And we'll go with Lunar Blue, because Lunar Blue is actually a new-ish color for me. I've only had it for a couple months, so I'm still getting used to it. But we'll put that right there, and we'll let it do its thing. But you can already see that the Rose of Ultramarine, it just kind of dries. You can see some of the blue and some of the, it's just really pretty. But Moon Glow is also really, I'm going to let it run down, all the way down. The one thing with Daniel Smith watercolor is a little bit goes a long, long way. And so I like to see it run, because then I can get an idea of what it will look like with less pigment and more water. So we'll do the same thing with this Lunar Blue. Lunar Blue is supposed to be dark, but it does have a lot. It has some green. It has like a phthalo green to it. And so I thought, well, that would be really pretty for oceans as well. But so when I'm painting oceans, I will often add like 3 or 4 different colors. See, I don't know where that yellow came from. There should not be yellow on my paper. And I will blend the two together. But look at that. It looked dark. It looked almost like a black. And then you add, you let it actually do its thing, and it's very granulating. It's beautiful. Watercolor by nature is granulating. If you want to not have the granulation, I would choose a gouache or an ink. And there's nothing wrong with using ink. Water-soluble ink is really fun to play with. Okay, so there's the Lunar Blue, but I like using Daniel Smith colors that they've made, because they have gone through the test. Oh, the other favorite color is Cascade Green, and I'll show you that, but Lunar Blue is another favorite of mine, I think. All right, Cascading Green and Undersea Green are both greens that they've put a lot of different colors into it. Like this one, oh my gosh, I used to know all the pigments. I'm looking. So it looks like there's a phthalo blue and raw sienna, so that makes it kind of like a yellowish color. It's just a really pretty green. And then Undersea Green, I'll do that next, and then you can kind of get an idea. But it has this beautiful turquoise quality to it. And when it separates, you get this green and turquoise color, and it's just lovely. I just think it's just so much fun to paint with. And it gives a lot of wonderful, yeah, you can already see some of that turquoise coming through. This is a great color for florals. Yeah, and it's reacting to the Lunar Blue in such a way that the Cascade Green is wanting to be bossy, which tells me it does have a lot of phthalo blue into it, because phthalo blue always makes it. Phthalo blue demands the respect because it is just bossy on the paper. Anyways, and then undersea green, I'll do that right next to it so you can see the difference. I love using undersea green because it gives you a really dark, beautiful color. I'm going to put it right there. And it has a lot more yellow. It has a lot of nickel azole yellow, I believe. I could be wrong. Ultramarine blue. Oh, and Quin Gold. That's why I love it. I love the Quin Gold in this. And then the ultramarine. So if you don't want to mix your ultramarine blue and your Quin Gold all the time, get undersea green. You will not go wrong. This is not a new pigment for me. It's like a year old. I bought it about a year ago, and I just love it. But you can already see that Quin Gold in with that ultramarine. It's a great complement. So if you do not want to mix those two favorite colors, get the undersea green. Anyway, so that's Daniel Smith for you. I'm going to clean this up a little bit, and I'll show you about my core. So core watercolor, while I'm picking up, is it's made by Golden brand, and it's highly respected in the oil and acrylic industry, or medium, I guess, not industry, medium. And they are very pigmented. Like a little bit goes a very, very long way. You do not need very much pigment to use this. And I love using core for paint, for like when I'm painting for shows, like the Iowa Watercolor Society shows, and for just for plein air, because they're just lovely to work with. But if you're just doing cards, and even if you are doing cards, these are wonderful paints. There's a little bit of different quality to them that makes it kind of like, oh, I don't know if I really like that. So let me show you what I mean by that. And it's not a bad thing. It's just a thing that happens because they're core watercolor, and they wanted to be different. Core wanted to be different. They didn't necessarily, like, anyone can buy a Daniel Smith watercolor and Blick watercolor. Like, you want to stand apart from the crowd, right? Well, Core found a way to do that in such a way that it's so much fun to use. And I'm going to need like a whole sheet of paper for this. So we'll see how it goes. So what I did, so here's the package. This is the High Chroma watercolor set. It comes with 6 different colors. Here's the different colors, and I love it. It has the green gold that I just told you about with Daniel Smith. It also has this cobalt turquoise, which I absolutely love. Quin Gold, a transparent orange, like a primrose, and then a dioxazine purple. So, and it's just lovely. And so you open it, and that's all the watercolor you get. But I have used, okay, so I got this, oh my gosh, probably 3 years ago, and it looks like it's brand spanking new. It looks like I haven't even used it. But I have used Core watercolor probably, I don't know, monthly, weekly. And so what I did for both of these, so this was the High Chroma, this is the landscape palette. And there's the landscape. So a little bit muted colors, still beautiful. It looks like I haven't hardly any used it at all. But what I did is I bought myself a palette, and there was no paint on it, and I added paint to it. And this is the product. Once I put the paint into it, then I leave the palette alone. So on this side is the High Chroma watercolor, and it goes till about here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I added my own colors. I added phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, and then I added my split primary palette. So my cad red, my alizarin crimson, my lemon yellow, and my quinacridone gold. But that looks more like I'm betting that's more raw sienna. Sometimes I forget. And then on this side, I used my earth colors, my landscape colors. And then I have this palette ready to go whenever I want. It'll dry, and then you can reactivate it with water. If I wanted to paint from the tube, I still have the option of having it in the tube. But this is why I love core watercolor. I'm actually going to use, I will show you guys how I like to paint a background of an ocean. And I will use a couple different colors, and I may even dip into, so even though this is a different palette and this is a different like watercolor palette from core, I can still mix and match these paints, right? Like there's no reason for why I couldn't. I'm going to show you why I love core. So I'm just going to get my paper wet a little bit. It's not like drippy wet, but it's pretty wet. Hopefully you can see that it's wet. Yep, okay. And I'm going to just take some cobalt turquoise, and you see how it's running on the paper? Like it has this really cool whoosh effect, and I just love it. And I will go all the way down, and then I love the high chroma watercolor paper, or sorry, palette, because it mixes really well. But here's the green gold, and I'll just add some green gold right here. And this is how I would paint a background. And I'll just let it kind of flow. And I like that. That's pretty. And it definitely whooshes around, so you do have to be a little bit careful. That's just the nature of core watercolor, but I love it. You can get it online. I tried going to a Jerry's Artorama art store looking for some core watercolor, and they did not have any. So, but you can get it online. I think because it's still pretty new. It makes it tough to necessarily get it. When I say new, it's been around for about 5 years, whereas Daniel Smith has been around a lot longer. But we're still trying to get artists to use core watercolor, but I just love it. I think it's so pretty. And then I can also add in, I feel like that green gold is just a little bit too much, so I'm going to subdue it a little bit. The other thing that I can do is if the green gold is too bright, because it is like a yellow, you can add a little bit of this pink. That's too much. But you can add it into the green gold just to tone it down a little bit, and you'll get a completely different color. It just loses its vibrancy, which if that's what you're going for, don't tone it down. But the one lesson I have learned when it comes to watercolor is I always buy the brightest hue possible, because I can always mute it down. But I can't mute it down if it's already muted. So I always buy the highest like high key colors, so bright colors, because I can always mute them. But like with this landscape, I'll show you. Here's sap green. Sap green is not, I mean, it's already muted. I can mute it down a lot more. Subdue it maybe with some of this. This is indigo, I believe. I love indigo and sap green together. But this is how I like to paint my backgrounds. I like to have it very much blended and playful at the same time. But you can see the difference between like the bright colors versus the muted, and you can kind of get a different, it just gives it a different feel. Since we're going with that, let's try yellow. See, that yellow just is perfect for landscapes. But I want it to be a little bit more in your face, so we're going to go with that green gold that I love so much. But you can definitely tell it wants to mingle more, it wants to mix more. It's just so much fun to play with. If you have not had a chance to play with core watercolor and you're looking for something new, I definitely would recommend checking out core watercolor, because it is quite lovely. And then let's just add, I'm just adding water, and I don't want a harsh line right there. And I'll just go all the way to the end. And I think since I started with cobalt teal, and I love cobalt teal anyways, I'm just going to go with that. And you can already see it wants to push in. Like, it's just so much fun to paint with. Anyway, so I'm going to let this kind of do its thing. And then I can go back in later and do the same thing again and just keep adding layers to my background. If I were to have like an image on it, maybe I would have used masking fluid so it didn't, you know, get into the image. But that's how I like to paint my backgrounds. I do that with florals anything, all the things. And it looks like I could almost make this into a landscape if I really wanted to. But anyways, I'll let that dry. And I'm going to look at some questions or comments. I don't see any that I'm like, okay, I should answer that. Yes. Gansai Tambi is the first watercolor palette. Oh my gosh, Tracy, you're picking strawberries already? Those darn birds. I don't know how to get rid of birds. I've heard that like if you put like a windmill or something that will like move with the wind, and the birds don't really care for it, but I don't know if that actually works. But yay for strawberries. Our strawberries won't be ripe until June. I have to wait till June. Iowa likes to, we like to take our time with our crops, I guess. But anyways, okay, so that's Core Watercolor. Check them out. Yes, it looks like you get a little bit for a lot. And I did actually buy the I think it was like a 24 set color of Core Watercolor. That's how I got my split palette. Yeah, but it's wonderful pigment. I have nothing but good things to say. They are really good at what they do, and a little bit goes a very long way. So there's that. All right, let's move on to some new pigments that I got that I think if you don't want to spend $20 on a tube of paint, but you want a good watercolor palette, I also recommend this Paul Rubens Artist Watercolor. I got this is actually from a company that sent it to me for me to do some watercolor demos. And I did that like a month ago. But I truly, truly have fallen in love with this palette. And we can do some more strawberries if you want. But I love the range of colors, and I love that they gave you just enough colors to make it happen, but not enough to like overwhelm you. And if you still like using a split primary palette, take a little small palette. I'll show you what I did last summer. My kids make me stay on the go all summer long. Like we don't sit around very often. So this is my small little, I think it's about 8 inches by 4 inches. But last summer I just did my split primary palette with a couple of my favorite colors. So here's my split primary palette. I got yellow ochre, and this is just from my studio palette. But you could do the same thing here and just take it with you. So I have my studio, my split primary palette with my neutrals on the end, and then I always like to paint with iridescent colors, and then I have some of my like have to have colors. So my 2 greens, sap green, and probably cascade green, because I love cascade green. A phthalo blue. Lapis is one of my favorite blues. It's a granulating color made from the lapis mineral, so I always like to add like some flair to my palette. And then I have I believe this is Indian red for all the like the oranges that you see in the summertime, and my purple, because I don't like to mix purples. I like to have my purples on my palette. If I need to mix a purple, I'll add a little bit more red or a little bit more blue or a little bit of orange if I need to tone it down, but I don't like to mix my purples. That's just me as an artist. So this is like a $60 palette. You can buy it on Amazon. I have the link in the description. And you're supporting the watercolor card group by purchasing this, so then the company knows that you like it. Anyways, it has everything that I need. I could totally make my palette out of this and take it with me, or I can sit on my dining room table and know that I don't need any more colors besides this. It even has my favorite cobalt turquoise. Like, I use this all the time in my summer watercolor cards. Another favorite of mine, and the pigment is very much like the Karataki watercolor. It's just in a tube instead of in a pan set. But again, get yourself a little palette. I haven't used it for a little while. That's why they're kind of, a little not done, but they just need watered, like a plant, and then they'll stick again. which means I need to paint with this palette, but I use it on the go. I use this all the time when my kids are at the pool and I don't want to swim with them. Is that terrible? I feel like that's terrible, but I am not a water person by nature. I love watching them swim and their laughter, and that's about it. Anyways, this is a great brand. I enjoy this very much. I've used this a lot, actually, in my last watercolor, and I see a lot of good use out of it. I'm actually going to take this with me to a plein air event and just use this as for fun. So that is kind of neat, and I actually do not. So I recommend this one. This one's $60 on Amazon, and it's really just a lovely, lovely piece of, if you're looking for a good watercolor palette with lots of different colors, this is it. And you get 5 milliliters, which is, I think if you were to go to Daniel Smith to look for 5 milliliters, you're looking at least $10 per tube. So, you know, you're getting a really good deal with this. I think this is by far one of the best deals out there right now. And then if you're like, I don't really care about the tube part, just give it to me in a pan, I have the next best thing. So I don't know, I don't understand why companies brand their stuff the way they do, because if it was me, I would not have done it. But this watercolor, the vibrancy of this watercolor is in this palette in a pan form. And I don't know why they don't just call it Paul Rubens watercolor, but they had to come up with a cute name, and it is a cute name, Melang. It sounds very artistic. But you can get it in a pan form, and then it also comes with iridescent paints, which I really love. I love painting a little bit of iridescent in all my paintings, so this is a fantastic set if you don't care about the tubes, but you still want it in a pan form. You're not going to get as much paint, but it's already done for you. And so I really think this is a great choice. And I think this was like right at $30. So this is another good one that I like. And I like that it's a palette, so I could just take this whole thing with me. And I like it because it, unlike the Kuretake ones, like it's not going anywhere. This palette, the watercolor, like I really have to work to get the pans out. And it's a half pan, but full of pigment. And then you can just stick it right back in the carrying case. But it's hard, like I can't get them, I have to work to get them out, which is really nice, because when you're on the go, you don't want to have your palette, you don't want your paints to be moving around. I know some people will put magnets on it, and then that'll hold. I have found that is very not helpful for me. So I like this palette. I really truly love this palette. I will use it with florals. I'll take it on the go with me. Yeah, if I'm new-ish to watercolor, or I really don't care about my color theory, I love this palette. Because I have all the colors I would ever need. If I care more about my color harmony and my color theory, I will make my own palette, so I know that each color works. And yeah, if you notice, my colors are very bright and vibrant because I know I can tone them down with the complementary color. So I don't know, was this helpful at all? Do you feel like you have a better grasp on maybe what colors you might want to get, or brands that you might want to try? I'm hoping to do a couple of different demos like this. I don't want this to be like a sales thing. This is really just my way of using the watercolors that I have. I know that Holbein makes really beautiful watercolors, and I know that Sennelier, I don't know. Anyways, there's a bunch of different brands that I have not tried that people love. Graham watercolor is a watercolor that I want to try. It uses honey as a vehicle, and I like the idea of using honey, but I haven't quite figured out the reason for it. So I have stayed away from Graham because Graham watercolor doesn't dry in a pan very well. You have to like wait and wait and wait for it to dry. So it's one of those watercolors that I've stayed away from. I'd love to try a couple, maybe even just a small little split palette, primary split palette. but I haven't. Maybe later. And then also with this palette it comes with a cute little water brush that I use not very often. I like to use watercolor brushes, pens like this when I'm on the go, so I see why they put it in here. But most of the time I'm at the kitchen table just painting with my small brush. But anyways, so any questions on any of this? You want to see some more painting? I didn't really paint. I talked a lot. I feel like I probably should have just done a video. But to finish my strawberry motif, I will use this palette and show you. Like, there's not going to be a whole lot of difference between the Karataki watercolor palette and this watercolor palette, other than the fact that they're made by different brands. Paul Rubin does make really good watercolor, though. I really like their stuff. But to keep going with the strawberry motif, I always like to paint my strawberries first. And this will make for a cute card. I can cut it down to size and it'll make a really cute card. Probably don't need to spray all of it, but I do like to let my watercolor, I like the water to sit on the watercolor palette for a little bit. But since I don't really have the time, I'll just make it happen. It's all good. And I want to make sure I have enough space for my greens. And because I just sprayed a lot of water, it's going to be very, but it definitely has a, so core, when I put core watercolor down, I'll show you the difference. Where did I put that palette? So you notice how that water just kind of, the watercolor just kind of did it what it was supposed to do. Core watercolor doesn't do that. Like it will, but if I add water to it, this is really, really pink. There is no strawberry that is that pink, but I'll add some orange to make it more warmer. There. Now it doesn't look like a very pink strawberry. If I were to add water to it, here's when I add water to it, you can see it separates and it just kind of does its thing. But if I were to dab it out, for worse or for better, depends on what you're looking for. This is very it can be very staining because it's so pigmented, but it is really a pretty, it's really, I like playing with core watercolor. I think the more you play with it, but it's just fun. Anyways, getting off track. Here's Scarlet Red, which is not like a cad red. It's more like a warm red, but it is fun. And then I'll add, I think I'll add some of this orangey-ish color to the top. Yeah. And when I'm painting motifs like this, very loose and kind of free, I like to change up my size. Like this is a big strawberry compared to that one. That one's a smaller one, so maybe I'll make one like maybe right here, a medium size. But let's go with just straight alizarin crimson. And this is, I like this color. It's a deeper alizarin. I would call it deep more than just regular alizarin crimson. But let's brighten this up just a tad with some of this. They call this Cardinal Lake. And that's pretty. Alright, now we can let that dry and then add the leaves. I didn't for this one, and I think I will add the leaves once they're all dry. But we got some more red. Let's do Primrose. Primrose is one of those colors that you can't really get a light fast on it, but anyways, we're just going for a fun little motif. And I always think of strawberries as like this oval, like triangle shape, and every strawberry I've grown, they've never looked the same. So I like painting fruit because, well, my strawberries don't all look the same. So if I'm painting a strawberry, why should they all look the same, right? Some are a little bit more longer and skinnier, maybe have a little bit of a curve to one side because of the way they grew. It's just fun. I recommend, if you like to, whatever you like to paint, be around that subject a lot because you'll learn a lot about it. Like if I was an animal trainer, I think I would paint a lot of different animals, right? Let's go with, I want to try the scarlet red, and I want to make a tiny one. But I wanted to add some iridescent paint to it just to see what it does. And I want to use this rose color. I'm going to dab it in, and it just kind of sits there. That's kind of nice. I'm not going to let it, I'm just going to let it do its thing. I'm not going to touch it or nothing. We need a big strawberry. Have you guys ever read The Big Hungry Bear and the Little Mouse with the big strawberry? The mouse is trying to keep its strawberry away from the big hungry bear, and the big hungry bear just wants a friend. He doesn't even care about the strawberry. That's what sometimes. Oh, it's just fun. Anyways, that would have been a fun book to illustrate. Anyways, okay. I'm gonna let those dry. I think I can keep going down. I like having warm. Why not keep going? This is way orange. This is not a strawberry color, and this is really not right. But I can add Scarlet Lake to it. To one side. There. Now it looks more like a unripened strawberry, which is perfect. Now for like this one, because it's watercolor, we might as well let the watercolor do its thing. I'm going to add a couple bits of red or water, just wherever, just to make it fun. It doesn't have to be anything picky, but you know, it just gives it more of a watercolor quality look to it. And then I'll do a big one right here. I love making motifs because it's just fun. Okay. And then I think I'll add a little bit of this orange again. Just to make the it's really pretty with some orange. I like it. This is getting a puddle. I don't really want that, so I'm gonna try and soak up some of that water. So what I just did is I flooded it with water, and then I got a puddle, so now I'm taking away some of that water, and then what you're left with is a really pretty, once it's dry, it'll look really pretty. This is getting kind of a weird bloom on it. I'm just going to go back in and tell the water I don't want it to stay right there, and then it should not be so much of a bloom. Okay, now I can go in with my leaves, and this is just, I don't even know what color. Did I use Hooker's Green? I did Hooker's Green. I think I'll just do 3. That's really kind of cute that way. Who knows where the other 3. Usually strawberry leaves have like 3 little things, but we'll go with that. Now this one is light enough, and my paint is just thick enough on the brush that I can kind of frame this a little bit. I'm going to change my green up a little bit. I'm going to do Viridian. And I'll do one more like that. I always do 5. That seems to work. Yeah. This one, this one I'm going to do, I'm just going to like make it just kind of silly. Oh, I need it to be thicker. There. I'm just doodling with my watercolor, which is fun. There. I kind of grew funky. That's alright. I'm going to wait on this one. That one's not dry yet. I'm going to clean my brush off. I kind of did the same thing. Don't really want a weird bloom on my strawberry, but that'll dry lovely. And I'll do olive green again, and I'll just do my simple, this is really almost a dry brush. I really like this olive green. It reminds me of green gold. And that one has a stem. Now I can go back in and add a little bit more shading and shapes to it, but this is just supposed to be for fun, right? Oftentimes when I'm playing with green, I won't actually, I already had olive green on it. I'm just going to go in with sap green and just kind of make it happen. I think this will make for a really cute card. I like that. Okay. I always hate going over the strawberries because it never ends well, but for that one I wanted to. Another brush handling tip is you always point the brush where you are, like where you're painting. So I was painting like this and it was not a natural way. If I pointed my brush to the way I was painting, then it works a lot easier. And I'll go back in with some of this and just add a little bit there and there. All right. Whew, that's like the perfect red. I think I just want to do something like that. Very, very loose. And since I already have green on my brush and I got like 2 more strawberries to do, something like that. I think this will make for a fun little garden card. There. And I'm going to call that done. It is very, very intuitive and fun. Anyways, I hope that helps. Now what I could do is I think I might splatter a little bit. I'm going to wait for it to dry though and see what I think. But anyways, yeah, that Scarlet Lake is really pretty, Terry. It is very cheerful. I agree. The name of this palette is called Melang Watercolor from Paul Rubens. And the link, I'll show you. I'll bring up the link because I have it right up here. It is in the description. However, I'll get it for you if I can move my, if I can get it. It is right here, 48, and it's $30 on Facebook. Yeah, on Amazon. There's the link for that Melang watercolor palette. Anyways, I am not an affiliate with Amazon, but I don't care about that. Anyways, I hope you guys, I'd love to know what brands of watercolor you're using. If you want to share, you don't have to, but it's always neat to see because sometimes I'm like, oh, that's really a cool color. I really like that. And then, you get other ideas. So, happy painting. I hope things go well, and I hope you have like a wonderful, cheerful weekend. If you have questions, always ask them. If you want something directly answered from me, you can put at Lisa Christensen, what is ... whatever, and I will reply. And you might find some other answers as well. But I'm always here to answer all questions. So hope this helps. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.